Hello everybody, my name is Edgar, aka CanadaMan. Has that always been there? You might look at the title of this video and go, what the fuck, you can't compare Inception and Flushed Away, that's fucking stupid, like, are you an idiot? But please, let me explain. I made a TikTok reviewing Flushed Away, kind of memeing, joking around a bit. And on top of fucking all of that, you got two of the greatest villains in cinematic fucking history. Fuck Thanos. Look at LaFrog, bro. Look at the frog, bro. Look at LaFrog, bro. Fuck the French, bro. But my friend Jack and I, by the way, go check out his channel. I make a voiceover cameo in his most recent video. Have a kind of joke saying that Flushed Away is better than Inception. But is it really a joke? I've decided to actually put it to the test and see, is Flushed Away better than Inception? This whole thing started because of Flushed Away, so why don't we start there? Flushed Away is really fun. It isn't DreamWorks' best movie, it isn't really even in their top 10, but it is impossible to not have a good time while watching it. So, let's ruin the fun by hyper-analyzing it, shall we? Before we get into the story and all that good stuff, I'm just going to go over each important character and give them each an individual rating out of 10, whatever, it's my video, fuck you. And of course, I'm going to start with the humans, and holy shit are they animated terribly. They look disgusting. I don't know how you can animate rats boating through a sewer with big action and funny slapstick comedy, animate the greatest villain ever animated in the history of animation, but then not be able to animate the bodies of humans simply walking past the camera and closing a door. But whatever, they're in the movie for literally 10 seconds, so it doesn't really affect anything. 3 out of 10. Sid is only there to make the movie start by flushing Roddy away. Hold on. That didn't sound right. Making Roddy get flushed away. But other than that, he does absolutely nothing the entire movie. He is pretty funny though, 5 out of 10. Now, Sid may be funny, but he isn't even close to the funniest character in the movie. That title belongs to, drumroll please, I don't even know if the mic's going to pick that up, Whitey! Now, it was tough to say that, because LaFrog does exist, but I have to take an objective view of this movie, and objectively, Whitey is the funniest character in the movie.
Feel it in me guts. That'll be last night's curry, Spike. I'm the same. I've got a bum like a Japanese flag.
If I had to rate him by himself, I would give him a 10. But I'm not doing that, because he's only in the movie for 10 minutes. Yes, I actually timed how long he was in the movie. So instead, I'm going to lump together all of Toad's henchmen, and all of them are funny, but none of them come anywhere close to Whitey. As a group, I'm going to give them a 7. Without Whitey, they would be getting like a 4 or a 5. Rita's family is a 6 out of 10. They're funny. They add an emotional beat to Rita's motivation. That's about it. Rita is Rita is an amazing character. She's a badass. And she also has a nice ass. I'm finding it hard to hold it together. I'm sorry. But I may or may not have had a crush on an animated rat when I was a kid. She is the driving point of the story. Without her, there is no story. Without her, Roddy stays an arrogant rich prick who never learns the importance of family, as well as finding a new place where he's truly happy. He would also die in the first 10 fucking seconds of the movie after getting flushed down the toilet. If she wasn't there, by the way, he would be fucking dead. Legit though, if Rita was not in the story, Roddy would not have met the Toad. And by extension of that, LaFrog. I was going to give Rita a 7, but because of that, I have to give her an 8. Now, onto what the movie is calling our main character, Roddy. Roddy is a pretty good main character, who has a really good character arc, but that's it. He works pretty well in the story, and he has his moments, but for the majority of the time, he's just a serviceable main character. If anything, on a serious note, Rita works more as the main character than Roddy. Like, if Roddy was a secondary character to Rita, he would probably get an 8 out of me, but for now, he gets a 7. Okay, the Toad is spectacular. He is the perfect villain, pretty much for this kind of movie. He's funny.
Up top. Huzzah! A man of quality.
He has a connection to both of our main characters.
Finally, somebody gets it. Come, let me show you my private collection. Did you imagine that I would let you steal it from me?
What? That jewel belongs to my father, and you know it.
Your father? A good-for-nothing scavenger just like his daughter.
And he is very evil. Like, really evil. His main plan is to carry out a mass genocide on the rat population.
It is returned, my plan complete. wash away once and for all the curse, the scourge of rats.
Using the flushed shit and piss water of the drunk British football fans during halftime of the World Cup. Like, not only is it like fresh shit and piss water, it's British piss and shit. Like, there isn't anything more toxic in the world. 9 out of 10. Who do I have left? LaFrog! Let's fucking go! LaFrog is the real main character of this movie, okay? The greatest antagonist of all time in cinematic history. Thanos? Fuck you. Darth Vader? Get the fuck out of here. Bowler hat guy? Okay, maybe. LaFrog is the second funniest character in this movie, which is saying a lot, because if you were to put him against any animated movie ever, like any character, you will never find a funnier character. You would fail 98.786% of the time. He and Whitey are both in the top 15 funniest animated characters of all time. Why is LaFrog funny? Okay, let's go over this. Why is LaFrog funny? Number 1, he's French.
I find everyone's pain funny but my own. I'm French.
Number 2, he's homophobic.
You are becoming what we French call le fruitcake.
Number 3, hench frogs. Number 4, he never misses dinner.
We leave immediately.
What about dinner?
I can keep going, but then this video would be 5 hours long. 10 out of 10, no. No, that's not right. Oh yeah, Marcel out of 10. Okay, now time to discuss the theme. Marcel! Marcel is a 10 out of 10. Marcel's cell phone, funny, mime, dance, sexual assault, 10 out of 10.
Stop there.
Roddy feels alone and isolated at the beginning of the story. He thinks that his owners, who he sees as his family, going on vacation means that he will have the time of his life home alone. But that isn't what happens. He starts to feel lonely, like something is missing in his life, which is what jumpstarts the adventure and the plot of the movie. Roddy begins to miss his family, and that feeling only worsens when he sees Rita's family all happy together despite being poor and living on an old rickety boat that sways back and forth every single second. Families only care about being together, and Roddy sees this and misses his. Roddy is desperately trying to belong anywhere he can. He lies about his lavish life and how he is to literally everybody so they think he's cool, so they can be his friends. But he especially lies to Rita. He wants to impress her. He wants her to accept him. Roddy is trying to be the hero. He's trying to find a purpose in his life. After finding out that his whole life up to that point was him lying to himself, making himself think that he was happy and where he belonged. Now, after all of that, you would think that this is some deep, serious movie that hits you right in the feels, but nope. At the end of the day, this was still made as a dumb kids movie, so a lot of these themes and ideas that could be explored are kind of shot down in favor of a shit joke or a haha Roddy got hit in the balls gag. But also, those subtle moments that could be there are interrupted with some unneeded explanation of why I should be sad, and it's mainly by these fucking slugs. Holy shit, fuck these slugs. I didn't even include them in my character list because they don't even deserve to be mentioned in a list that includes the glorious LaFrog. This movie was made in 2006, 4 years before Despicable Me, but they feel like shitty, cheap knockoffs of the already shitty Minions. I don't even get ironic enjoyment out of these being in the fucking movie. Okay, I said what I said about them. Now, I'm never going to mention them again, okay? Never. The slugs, like the word slugs is never exiting my mouth ever again for the rest of my life. The story is kind of basic, but in my opinion, it is done pretty well. They took a basic and overdone story of our hero discovering who he is and saving the day in the end, and made it fresh and enjoyable. Most of the fucking time. The introduction of the new world, that is the sewer, is done really well. We get introduced to it with our main character and we feel like we are right beside him learning about a whole secret new world. Fucking slugs. Editing, Edgar here. I recorded a whole recap of the entire movie, but it's kind of boring. Not gonna lie, so I'm gonna skip to the end, okay? Okay. Roddy finally makes it back home. It's over. He's finally accomplished the one thing that he's been trying to do since he got flushed down the toilet. He gave Rita the ruby to replace the one he had broken earlier, and they say their goodbyes. The movie should be over, but it isn't. Roddy starts to feel something. He starts to feel like something is missing. We can tell by the look on his face. my god, please shut the fuck up! Flushed Away was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I still very much enjoy it. So in the grand scheme of movies on an all-time scale, I would have to give it a 6 out of 10. But as a fun little movie, like a side adventure that you can just put on, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Okay, so Flushed Away is all done, okay? It's time to take a look at Inception, and I'm going to use the same format. So I'm just going to start this off by saying every actor did an amazing job in this movie, okay? There's not one actor who did a terrible job. Cobb is an almost perfect main character to follow. And the reason that is the case is that he isn't perfect. He's flawed. No matter how smart he is, no matter how talented he is at extracting, he still fails. In fact, his biggest flaw is the main conflict and motivation of the story.
How would you like to go home to your children?
Stop, come on.
Arthur is an amazing sidekick and arguably the best character in the whole movie. One of the best scenes in the movie belongs to him. He is also decently funny.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
100% the funniest character in the movie, maybe Eames. Just maybe. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is an amazing actor, and this movie is, in my opinion, the greatest performance of his career. The only reason that this character isn't a 10 out of 10 for me is that a lot of his lines are him just spewing exposition.
Limbo?
Unconstructed dream space.
Well, what the hell is down there?
Just raw, infinite subconscious. Nothing is down there. Except for whatever might have been left behind by anyone sharing the dream who's been trapped there before. Which in our case, is just you.
Oh shit, I forgot to give them their ratings. Okay, Cobb is a 9 out of 10 and Arthur is also a 9 out of 10, okay? Alright, let's move on. Ariadne is kind of a boring and uninteresting character, okay? I'm going to be saying she here because the character is a she, okay? Just to make sure that you know. I'm not referring to Elliot Page with the incorrect pronouns, okay? She does play an important role in the story. She becomes the new architect for Cobb and his team. She becomes one of the best architects in the story, but that doesn't change how boring the character is. I lost a lot of interest when the character was on screen, and at least for me, took me out of the movie. Now, that is not Elliot Page's fault. He is an amazing actor. I'm putting 100% on the blame on Christopher Nolan and the writers. With that being said, she's still one of the better characters in the movie, which says a lot about the quality of the side characters. Arguably, Ariadne should be considered a main character along with Cobb and Arthur, but really, the only three objectively good characters are Cobb, Mal, and Arthur. 6 out of 10. Editing Edgar here. I just wanted to quickly say that I'm an idiot, and I'm changing my score of Ariadne from a 6 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10. I just wanted to add that really quick. Saito, Eames, and Yusuf are all kind of just blah. Saito creates the ending conflict of the movie and does at least add to the story. The same cannot be said about Eames and Yusuf. Tom Hardy adds something to the character of Eames. Without Tom Hardy, Eames would probably be my least favorite character in the movie. Now, Yusuf, he really doesn't add anything to the movie at all. He elaborates on the idea of Inception, then explains what it means in the context of the ending. But literally any character could have done that. Saito gets a 5 out of 10, Eames a 4, and Yusuf a fucking 3. Michael Caine is Michael Caine. His character really isn't in it much to make an impact, but again, it's Michael Caine. You can't go wrong with Michael Caine. 5 out of 10. Robert Fisher, played by Cillian Murphy, is a pretty good character for what he is, a vehicle for our main characters to complete his story arc. And again, for what he is, he does a good job. You do end up feeling bad for him in the end, despite that whole scene of him dying father being fake. 6 out of 10. Mal is the embodiment of guilt, the real antagonist of the movie. Guilt is what Cobb is fighting against the whole time. He blames himself for what happened to Mal, rightfully so, but he takes it to another level. Get it? Mal and her death are all he thinks of. Over the course of the movie, it starts to slowly get more and more noticeable and hard for him to overcome it as he's forced to confront that moment more and more, culminating in the finale of the movie. It's kind of obvious. The whole movie is about dreams and using dreams. Every scene in the movie makes the audience wonder whether or not it is currently a dream or not. And the movie uses dreams to explore a character's insecurities, secrets, and past traumas. As Cobb says to Ariadne, dreams are populated by projections of the dreamer's mind. Mal is one of those projections inside of Cobb's mind. Cobb coming to terms with what is real and what isn't. Losing track of reality is what got Mal killed in the first place and started Cobb down this path. The memory of Mal's death haunts Cobb. He can no longer be the great architect he once was because of his memory of Mal's death. She's everywhere. Whenever he tries to construct a dream level, she's there. Guilt is the true villain of the story, represented by Mal. I already talked about her, so I'm not going to gonna go more into it. Moving on. Time inside the dreams is longer than in real life, or as Cobb puts it,
5 minutes in the real world gives you an hour in the dream.
the deeper you go into the dreams, the more distorted time becomes. Time also plays a part in the guilt that Cobb feels. His past keeps haunting him, never letting him go. The death of Mal keeps consuming him. Okay, it's time for the story, one of the greatest stories ever made. Let's go. The main conflict of the movie is between Cobb and his past, learning to let go and come to terms with reality. The finale of the movie is an amazing action-filled adventure, but the most important part is the subtext of Cobb realizing that Mal is truly gone, and it's time to let her go and finally see his kids again. All of the ideas set up at the beginning of the movie are carried out by the end. Some pretty incredible and experimental ideas are explored and are handled pretty well. I think that the story created by Christopher Nolan is one of the greatest in movie history. The way it takes and handles the themes in a way that is complicated yet intriguing at the same time and gets you hooked. One of the only criticisms I can give is that for someone watching it for the first time, it might be a little bit too intimidating.
When you enter a dream within that dream, the effect is compounded. It's 3 dreams, that's 10 hours times 20.
When I watch something like Inception that is complicated yet interesting and intriguing, I immerse myself in the story. I rewatch or reread whatever it is multiple times until I fully understand everything that was attempted by the writers and directors. I did that with Attack on Titan, the MCU, except for Thor: The Dark World. I even did that with Fortnite when I used to play it back in the day, but I didn't do that with Inception. I've rewatched the entirety of Attack on Titan from episode 1 all the way to where the show is now, legitimately over 100 times. I have done almost 50 watch parties of the MCU, both in chronological and release order, but when I rewatched Inception for this video, I realized that this was only the 4th time that I've legitimately sat down to watch this movie in its entirety, which is weird for me. I have watched so many videos about the ending of the movie, interviews with Christopher Nolan about the movie. I've barely sat down and just watched it. After this viewing of the movie, I kind of understand why. The overall score I would give this movie has changed since the last time I watched it. I used to consider Inception the greatest movie of all time, or at least in my top 5. I used to have Inception as a 10 out of 10, but I'm sorry, I'm going to have to lower that to an 8. The movie is still one of the greatest movies of all time, but I cannot, in good conscience, give it a 10 out of 10 like I used to. There are a lot more negatives in this movie than I remembered, such as terrible side characters, the copious amounts of exposition, which technically is kind of needed for a concept like this. But in a fucking better way, please.
The compound we'll be using to share the dream creates a very clear brain function in the dream will be about 20.
So once we've made the plant, how do we get out? I'm hoping you have something more elegant in mind than...
It's that feeling of falling, you get the jolts. I customized the sedative to leave inner ear function unimpaired. That way.
And the movie being longer than it needed to be. They could have cut out a lot of the exposition, by the way. They could have included more in some places and less in others. And while they are not enough to make this movie bad, it is easy enough for me to say that Inception is, at least in my opinion, just a tiny bit overrated. And while the movie overall, I gave an 8 out of 10, what about rewatchability? I'm going to have to give that a 5. You might notice some new things and new stuff here and there, but you just won't have as much fun and enjoyment as you did the first 2 or 3 times. But that doesn't answer the question. Is Flushed Away better than Inception? I think objectively, Inception is a far superior movie than Flushed Away, let's be serious here. But it kind of loses its punch after your first couple times of watching it. Inception is the better movie, sure, but I would much rather sit down and rewatch Flushed Away than rewatch Inception, which to me, at least, makes Flushed Away better than Inception. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Wait! I think we can all agree that both movies are better than Tokyo Revengers. Yeah, shots fired at Draken.